Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show that extracts the most important insights from a stack of sources, giving you a shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're diving deep into a figure who is, well, undeniably polarizing yet massively popular. Jordan B. Peterson. His book, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, it sold millions, sparked huge admiration, but also, considerable criticism. It's definitely a complex topic, maybe even challenging, but we're here to guide you through it.
That's right. And to unpack this whole phenomenon, we've got some really insightful sources. There's a critical book review from the International Journal of Well-Being by Paul T.P. Wong, and we've also looked at an honest review thread on Reddit, which, as you can imagine, has a really wide range of community reactions.
Right, the full spectrum.
Exactly. So our mission today is to pull out the core insights from 12 Rules for Life. We want to understand why Peterson resonates so powerfully with so many people, and also explore the critiques, especially around his contribution, or lack thereof, to the psychology of well-being. We'll look at what he's saying and how it's been received, aiming to present all sides, without actually endorsing any particular view ourselves.
Okay, so Peterson, often described as an enigma. He's like this rock star, public intellectual selling out theaters worldwide. But at the same time, he seems to have alienated a lot of academic colleagues, drawn a huge amount of controversy. What is it about him and this book, 12 Rules for Life, that's created such intense popularity, especially, they say, with about 80% male admirers, while also attracting such fierce debate?
Yeah, it's definitely a mix of things. His rise wasn't really through the usual academic channels. He was incredibly savvy with social media, particularly YouTube, millions of subscribers there. And he wasn't afraid to directly attack or at least challenge prevailing academic and cultural ideologies. That definitely played a part.
That willingness to sort of push back against the establishment.
Right. But beyond that, his appeal seems to come down to a few key things that just really connect with people. There's his style. It's described as straight shooting, no nonsense. Maybe a lot of young people feel, that the campus climate of coddling the American mind hasn't really prepared them. So they respond to what feels like an authentic voice telling them the brutal truth. He kind of steps into this role almost like an authoritative father figure.
A brutal truth they might not be hearing elsewhere. That makes sense. It explains part of the draw for an audience looking for clear guidance. But I wonder, for someone who might already be struggling, could that no-nonsense approach feel a bit overwhelming? Or is it precisely the clarity they need?
That's a really good question. I mean, his approach is demanding, there's no doubt. But the argument is he also meets them where they are. Often, as he puts it, at the bottom of a dominance hierarchy, a place of despair, confusion, and resentment.
Dominance hierarchy. What does he mean by that exactly?
Essentially, the natural social structures, where people compete for status, resources. It's a biological and sociological concept he leans on heavily. And he doesn't offer easy fixes or, false promises. It's more of a rigorous, challenging path out of misery. He tells you, aim at the highest good, make the necessary sacrifices for a better future. It's really a call to action, demanding personal agency, not just, a comforting pat on the back.
Okay, so he's not just pointing out the problems, he's offering a way forward, even if it's a tough one. And he structures this with actual concrete steps.
Exactly. The book gives you these concrete steps. They're rooted in, traditional Judeo-Christian values mostly. And it presents a coherent and deep conceptual framework for the 12 rules as a package. It's not just a random list. He even takes scientific findings, like Mitchell's famous marshmallow study on delayed gratification.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
Right. He sort of elevates it to a higher spiritual plane, giving practical advice this existential weight. And it's worth mentioning his self-authoring program, this online writing thing he developed to help people sort out their past, present, future. That's actually shown empirically that it helps people. So there's some tangible support for his appeal there, too.
Right. Okay. So moving beyond the personality, the immediate appeal, what's really at the heart of his core message? Paul Wong's review, the one you mentioned, highlights 4 key areas where Peterson contributes to the psychology of well-being. Let's start with something that might feel a bit counterintuitive today. His emphasis on religious values and accepting suffering.
Yeah, that's a really crucial starting point. It definitely sets his philosophy apart. Peterson basically argues that the rise of rationalism and puricism has eroded traditional religious values, and this leaves a kind of dangerous vacuum, one that can be filled by nihilism and totalitarianism. That's his fear.
Okay, so what's his alternative?
He proposes an approach that integrates nature, culture, and individuals. He sees religious and cultural thinking as a source of mythological truths. These truths, he believes, teach us how to live meaningfully in spite of the tragedies of life. He draws this line. Science gives us empirical laws about the world, fine. But religion provides the narrative of the laws of values or moral actions. And like quite a few scientific figures in the past, Peterson seems to believe in God as the grounding for these moral laws.
Interesting. So from that view, meaning isn't something you just make up for yourself?
Exactly. It's something revealed or discovered. A bit like Viktor Frankl's logotherapy, if you know that. It's not just created out of thin air. It requires cultivating the right attitudes, the right values.
So discerning meaning that's already there, in a sense, and you said central to this is accepting suffering. That feels like a pretty heavy place to start for a well-being book.
It is heavy, definitely. But for him, it's foundational. Life is struggle. It is full of suffering. That's the baseline. So Peterson says instead of trying to avoid it, the undeniable reality of suffering must be the foundation for living a meaningful life. This completely shifts the question. It's not, how can I be happy? It becomes, given this reality of suffering, what are you going to do today that will be good for you and good for those around you and maybe even beyond?
Wow. Okay. That's a big question.
It is. And his answer involves a moral obligation, a responsibility to yourself and your loved ones. The responsibility is to aim at the greatest good according to your conscience and best understanding. And this path, he stresses, it demands hard work and self-sacrifice, which aligns him with something called existential positive psychology. It's an approach that doesn't shy away from the dark stuff, but integrates it into the search for flourishing.
That makes a lot more sense. Building resilience through the hard parts, not just trying to sidestep them. Okay, another major theme that seems to frame this is the dialectic between chaos and order. How does he define those? What does navigating them mean?
Right, he's heavily influenced by the Taoist yin-yang idea here. It's crucial to his thinking. For Peterson, chaos. He defines it as the despair and horror when you feel you've been profoundly betrayed. It's the place you end up when things fall apart. You know, dreams die, career collapses, marriage ends.
The ground giving way beneath you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, and this is key, he says, in its positive guise, chaos is possibility itself. It's the source of ideas, the mysterious realm of gestation and birth.
Okay, so it's not purely negative. What about order?
Order is simpler. In a way, it's the place and time where the often visible axioms you live by organize your experience and your actions so that what should happen does happen.
Yeah.
Structure, predictability, known territory.
Got it.
And his point is, we always inhabit order, but it's surrounded by chaos. Meaningful engagement, he says, happens when we mediate appropriately between them. It's this constant active balancing act.
So meaning isn't about wiping out chaos or just sticking rigidly to order, but finding that path between them consciously. And this ties straight into his emphasis on personal responsibility, right?
Absolutely. It's the logical next step.
Yeah.
Peterson's work really challenges you, the listener, the reader, to pull their weight conscientiously without complaint. He urges you to accept the terrible responsibility of life with eyes wide open. The task is transforming that chaos, that potential, into habitable order. And you do that by willingly undertaking the sacrifices necessary to generate a productive and meaningful reality.
Taking ownership.
Precisely. Yeah. And it's worth noting, this concept of personal responsibility, it has a lot of backing in psychological research. Things like self-determination theory, self-efficacy, self-regulation, self-control, and the importance of conscientiousness. You know, being diligent, organized, that's strongly linked to life success, even longevity. It's about actively shaping your world.
Okay, so building on these big ideas, suffering, meaning responsibility, chaos, order, Peterson then boils it down into his famous 12 rules. Can you give us a flavor of what some of these rules actually look like? How do they connect back to these deeper principles, but also how is the way he presents them in the book sometimes criticized, even by people who like him?
Right. Well, the rules themselves, they're often quite punchy, action-oriented, memorable, designed as guides.
Yeah.
So, for example, Rule 1, stand up straight with your shoulders back. That's not just posture advice. It's about confronting life with courage, accepting your place, your reality.
Facing the world squarely.
Exactly. Then there's Rule 2. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. This frames self-care not as indulgence, but as a kind of moral obligation. You have a duty to yourself.
Interesting take.
Rule 6. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. That's a direct hit on personal responsibility first. Sort yourself out before trying to fix everything else. Rule 7. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Choosing long-term purpose over short-term gain or ease.
Delayed gratification again, in a way.
In a way, yes. Rule 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. stressing integrity, the clarity that comes from honesty, even when it's hard. And then there's Rule 12, pet a cat when you encounter one on the street.
Okay, wait. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. Seriously, amongst all this deep, heavy stuff, that's a rule I think most people can get behind. But what's the deeper principle there? It seems almost out of place.
It does sound a bit whimsical, doesn't it? But I think it actually distills that idea of finding moments of grace amidst the suffering. It's about being open to simple, good things. Acknowledging vulnerability of the cats, maybe your own. Finding small, genuine connections in the everyday, which is important when life feels overwhelming. It's a reminder to stay present to moments of simple being.
A moment of order or maybe positive chaos in the street.
Perhaps. But back to your question about the delivery. This is where the critiques really come in, even from fans sometimes. Wong, in his review, describes Peterson's writing as ambiguous, verbose, and guilty of tautology.
Tautology, meaning?
Meaning he repeats the same idea, often using different, sometimes more complex words, without necessarily adding much new substance, saying the same thing over and over in different ways. And the Reddit review really echoes this. It calls the book a messy canvas of Peterson's stream of consciousness, rather than a straightforward self-help guide.
So not always a clear path for someone just looking for the rules and how to apply them. Sounds like it can wander off quite a bit.
Exactly that. The Reddit reviewer even suggests the book feels more like Peterson trying to distill his much earlier, very dense academic work, Maps of Meaning, explored Jungian archetypes in myths, these universal inherited symbols and themes in our collective unconscious.
Right, Jung. Heavy stuff.
Very. So the theory is he's using the self-help format as a kind of hook to bring those complex ideas to a wider audience. But the result, according to the review, includes numerous digressions and rants against identity politics, cultural Marxism, and postmodern feminism.
So the politics gets woven in quite heavily.
Apparently so. Rule 11, do not bother children when they are skateboarding, is given on Reddit as a prime example. The reviewer says Peterson basically shoves his entire political worldview into 10 pages there, moving quite far from the rule itself. And a lot of commenters on Reddit noted that Peterson's style, that stream of consciousness, it just works better in his lectures or podcasts. It's less captivating on paper.
That makes sense. His speaking style is very distinct.
Which is why the audiobook, the one he narrates himself, is often recommended. People feel it captures the spirit of his lectures better.
It's really interesting how the medium changes the message, or at least its reception. So given these criticisms about the writing style, the digressions, how do his strong supporters see it? Do they offer a different take on why the book is written that way?
Yeah, some fans on Reddit offer a, let's say, more charitable interpretation. They see his meteoric rise to fame, not just his personal success, but maybe as a kind of burden or a cross he has to bear. Like it's a transcendent obligation for him to get his beliefs out there to as many people as possible.
A sense of duty, almost.
Right. So from that perspective, maybe he is willing to publish a book that's seen as poorly written or disorganized if it contains what he sees as truth. The goal is just to stay in the spotlight as long as possible, to get as many ideas out there as humanly possible. For these fans, he's fighting against ideological thinking, pushing for individual discovery of meaning, and the book, Flaws and All, is just one tool for that fight.
Okay, this has been a really fascinating, complex, deep dive, pulling all these threads together now. Despite the stylistic issues, the controversy surrounding him, what would you say is Peterson's larger contribution to how we think about well-being? And how might we, apply some of these core ideas in our own lives?
Well, I think a major contribution is how he challenges some aspects of conventional positive psychology. Sometimes positive psychology can seem to focus only on the positive, maybe offering simplistic answers. Peterson, along with that existential positive psychology tradition, really emphasizes the importance of embracing the dark side of life. Finding well-being isn't about avoiding pain. It's through this dialectic process of finding meaning and ameliorating suffering. You have to engage with it.
So it sounds almost like a modern spin on the classic hero's journey, where confronting your shadow, your inner demons, is actually necessary for growth.
That's a great way to put it. He definitely encourages integrating opposites. Like integrating our shadow, those unexpressed, maybe darker parts of ourselves, with our ego, our conscious self, and navigating the tension between what he calls our inner lobster, that sort of primal drive for status, dominance within hierarchies.
The lobster.
Yeah, it's one of the famous metaphors linked to Rule 1. He talks about lobster neurochemistry and social standing. It represents that ancient hierarchical part of us. So navigating the tension between that and our inner divinity, our spiritual core, our conscience, that connection to ancient wisdom, He argues this dynamic balancing act leads to human progress, and at its highest level, it leads to self-transcendence.
Self-transcendence, like
Yeah.
Maslow talked about, going beyond just self-actualization.
Exactly like Maslow, serving a higher purpose, something bigger than yourself.
Oh.
His work really hammers home that a truly meaningful life isn't fundamentally about what you get from life. It's about what life demands from you. It's about your responsibility to make a special contribution for the well-being of humanity.
That's a significant shift in focus.
It really is. It's about developing the kind of moral character that's strong enough to withstand life's storms and ultimately maybe to ennoble humanity through your actions, your choices.
Well, this deep dive has definitely shown that Jordan Peterson and 12 Rules for Life offer a, well, complex, often challenging, but clearly impactful perspective on living a meaningful life. He really pushes you to confront some uncomfortable truths and think about your place in a bigger story of responsibility and purpose.
Yeah, his core message seems pretty clear, even through the complex delivery. Life is suffering and human beings are fragile. That's the starting point. But the ultimate challenge, and maybe the real opportunity for growth, is facing that reality head on. The good life, in his view, it's not about finding some state of stagnant security. It's a dynamic balancing act between order and chaos,
Hmm.
and is driven by purposeful action, by a willingness to make sacrifices for something better down the line.
So perhaps the provocative thought to leave you, our listener, with is this. In your own life, how do you actively negotiate that inherent suffering? How do you seek out meaning through taking personal responsibility? And how do you strive for that balance between the chaos and the order that define existence? Not just for yourself, but thinking about those around you, the wider world. What small or maybe large sacrifices are you willing to make today for what Peterson might call that heavenward trajectory?